This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Alright, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. Alright, so let me tell you what's going on today. Basically, just going to get into a few NBA and NFL topics. Maybe going to get into them a bit, talk about some other things going on in the world of sports, as we always do. Alright, you got Kawhi Leonard considering playing going to the USA Team Hoops Camp this summer. All right. Again, with Kawhi, we're not even sure where he's going to be going. Maybe we'll talk about that a bit. Like I said, we'll talk about some other NBA things going on. We got some NFL stuff to talk about. Saw what the Steelers offered Le'Veon. I think it seems that they were never going to make a deal. Okay. And I was figuring that the Steelers weren't willing to pay Le'Veon enough as a running back, but it seems Le'Veon wants to be paid like an offensive weapon, I guess. That's what I saw the term being tossed around. I think he was getting offered a yearly salary of $14 million a year. And I saw it was like a 5-year, $70 million contract, but only 30 of it was guaranteed. But nonetheless, that is about 14 annually. And I guess he wanted way more than that. So, I don't blame the Steelers. Maybe could have offered a little bit more guaranteed money. But nonetheless, maybe it's just best that they both move on. All right, you got T.O. trying to come back. Open playing the CFL. I saw it was the Edmonton Eskimos. Okay, opening up their little 10-day window to try and negotiate to sign them. So we'll be talking about that. And then, like I said, we'll be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. We had the home run derby yesterday. Still entertaining. All right, and Bryce Harper did end up taking the win there. So that's what we'll be covering today. Let's get into Le'Veon Bell and the NFL news. All right. So like I said yesterday, we were talking about it. Deadline to get a deal done was at 1 o'clock Pacific time, and the Steelers and Le'Veon Bell were unable to. All right. I figured it was because the Steelers tend to not pay their players a whole bunch of money. Okay. They did pay Antonio Brown. Of course, you got Ben Roethlisberger, but before that, it was never really like them to pay guys big money. All right. Nonetheless, though, we have Le'Veon Bell, who's been franchised for, 2 straight years? Okay. And, of course, he was up for a deal. And you figured he was going to come at a hefty price. All right. Right now, the top running back, as far as yearly salary, is Devontae Freeman, who's making $8.2 million a year. All right. Le'Veon Bell, to break it down easily, is about 5 times the running back that Devontae Freeman is. As good as Devontae Freeman is, Le'Veon Bell is just that much better. All right. So I figured that Le'Veon was probably asking for about maybe $14 to $15 million a year or whatnot, because, that's a nice little pay increase. Plus, that'll reset the market as far as the running back position goes. But nonetheless, like I said, you move on, see they don't get a deal done, and, of course, his agent's out here talking like it's probably going to be his last season in Pittsburgh, okay? Yeah, that all makes sense. Whatever. We move on. Then the contract details come out. Like I said, it was 5 years, $70 million. This isn't I don't know how factual this is or anything like that, but I think this is what Adam Schefter reported. It's 5 years, $70 million, and I saw only $30 million of it was guaranteed. Okay. That, I think, would be the most guaranteed money for a running back in the league right now. And plus, like I said, he'd be making $14 million yearly. Okay. Of course, you'd have to hit on all your incentives to get that, but nonetheless, it seems like a pretty decent deal, a pretty good deal, I'd say, from the Steelers. Okay? So obviously, Le'Veon Bell feels for as much as he does in the backfield, running the ball and both catching the ball out the backfield, deserves a whole lot more money. I'm figuring he was thinking maybe he should be making around 20 or 17 mil a year annually. Okay? And that is a bit much. All right? So I do understand why Pittsburgh didn't want to give that to him. Okay, he's not a quarterback. You're not going to be making quarterback money. I mean, like I said, Devontae Freeman's only making $8 million a year. Okay, that's not going to go. It's not going. You're not going to reset the market by going from another $12 million up to 20. Okay, like I said, I'm not even sure if he was asking for 20, but nonetheless, it had to be something high like that. All right, and I'm not sure. I mean, is there a team that's going to pay Le'Veon Bell what he expects for what he does? Because it seems that, I mean, if he wasn't accepting $14 million a year, then he's got to be thinking maybe at least 17. Okay. And for me, it's just, is there a team out there willing to give a running back who's probably going to be on his last big deal, okay, before he turns 30, 17 or $20 million a year? All right. That's one where you don't even pay your best receiver that kind of money, okay? I mean, yeah, that's quarterback money right there. No one else is really making that kind of thing besides defensive tackles. All right. But nonetheless, I mean, I'm never going to get mad at a player for demanding what he wants as far as money goes, and I guess I can't get mad at the team for choosing not to offer it. All right. But nonetheless, it seems that Le'Veon Bell is going to be skipping training camp, and that's something I think we all pretty much knew. He did the same last season also, and it's just, I mean, why go through training camp if they're not on a long-term deal? All right, you don't want to go through any injuries or anything like that, and you'd rather be ready for week one. And I mean, last year Le'Veon Bell played extremely well, missing training camp, so during the regular season as he missed training camp. So I mean, I'm sure it's not going to make a difference here. Like I said yesterday, I mean, there was reports of possibly Le'Veon Bell sitting out half the season. I never really believed those or anything like that. Those are usually reports that come out, and they usually have no basis to them. All right, more so just trying to get the pot stirred here. But nonetheless, I mean, Steelers' offense is going to look a whole lot different without Le'Veon Bell. All right, because you can't just replace him with one guy, and if you it's extremely difficult too. Okay, who else are you going to find that could run the ball as well as he can and receive the ball to the backfield as well as he can? I mean, the dude's basically a running back and wide receiver. All right, but nonetheless, I mean, Pittsburgh's always done well to draft solid running backs. They've also done well to draft solid offensive players. So we'll see maybe if they can end up fixing up their defense if they lose Le'Veon Bell. All right, I'm not really one who is for fixing up your defense through free agency. I'm more of a build through the draft type of person. But nonetheless, I mean, now Steelers are going to have a lot more money to spend. So we'll see how that all goes down. But nonetheless, other NFL news, like I said, Terrell Owens tried to make a comeback. So I think that a lot of this is a PR stunt. All right. It says he eyes an NFL return. I mean, you can't play in the NFL if you're a Hall of Famer. All right. So that I don't really see happening at all. Okay. But I could see him playing in the CFL. Okay. And if he does go to the CFL, I definitely will be watching. All right. Video recently coming up on social media of Terrell Owens running a 40. All right, 4.4. If Terrell Owens still running at that speed, I mean, who's to say he still can't play? All right. And like I said, of course, last time he was in the NFL, 2010, back when he played with the Bengals, he's not coming back to the NFL. All right. That's just, I don't know why the NFL even gets mentioned, but nonetheless, yeah, he's not coming to the NFL. So that whole return not happening, but nonetheless, I can't see the CFL one happening. All right. Like I said, we'll have a CFL with Johnny Manziel and Terrell Owens. It's going to get some ratings. All right. Of course, we got to wait for Johnny Manziel to become the starter of the Hamilton Tiger Cats before I start heading over there. But if you get T.O. over there, you'll get me there early. Okay. Who knows? Maybe we'll be covering the CFL here on this podcast. But yeah, the Edmonton Eskimos have until July 24th to till they can decide, or until, yeah, that's the deadline to decide whether or not they want to offer Owens a contract. All right. It could be their minimum rookie salary, but nonetheless, I mean, if T.O. is going to Canada, you got to expect it's got to be for some decent amount of money. All right. I mean, T.O. coming off of his couch to come play for basically a little to nothing in Canada probably won't happen. All right. So you're probably going to have to fork out some type of money to get him. But nonetheless, I mean, it would be interesting to say the least. All right. And it's not like T.O. come out and dominate because, I mean, these Canadian football players are still pretty solid athletes. All right. So we'll see about that. Other NFL news, Brandon Cooks Got an extension already by the St. Louis Rams. Got him a 5-year deal. Okay? I think it's 5 years, $80 million for his extension. And, I mean, I like it from the Rams. Okay? He's going to be making about $16 million a year. And, I mean, yeah, it's a solid move. He's already on the last year of his deal this season. And the Rams did need a number one receiver. As good as Robert Woods was at home last season, he wasn't relatively great on the road. Brandon Cooks, we know, can be a number one receiver in this league. Plus, he's still really young. He's only 24 right now. All right, so this gives Jared Goff pretty much some stability as far as who's the number one receiver going to be going forward. But there's a question. What's going on with Aaron Donald in that team? Okay, why hasn't he got his deal yet? I mean, before they signed Ndamukong Suh, we all knew that Aaron Donald needed a new deal. And the Rams still ended up signing Ndamukong Suh. Granted, it's only a year and $14 million, but nonetheless, I mean, you're giving Brandon Cooks an extension when you just signed him to your team recently, and Donald's been there since he's drafted, and you haven't given him an extension yet. Okay? I know Aaron Donald most likely does want to get paid quarterback money. All right? And I'm sure maybe the Rams are looking at Ndamukong Suh over with Miami and seeing how that didn't really work out as far as the wins and losses aspect go with it. So I'm not even sure if the Rams want to pay Aaron Donald all that money. Okay? I've seen that a deal's still most likely going to get done and all that, and I assume it will, but nonetheless, I mean, there is, I think, substance to that whole. He's got to be asking for a lot of money, and the Rams got to be a bit hesitant, seeing that usually it doesn't work out that way, or work out well enough when you do pay guys like that quarterback money. Okay. Because once you give him that, it's a whole lot of expectations, and a whole lot of unrealistic expectations too at that. Okay. So we'll see what they end up doing. We got Earl Thomas too. Pretty much voicing that if Seahawks aren't going to extend him, he wants to be traded. We'll possibly get to that later on in the show, maybe in the third segment or the fourth possibly, so stay tuned. Next up, we'll be heading over to the NBA and talking about some NBA topics there, so stay tuned and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We spent that first segment covering some news in the NFL. Could get into some more. Well, I'm not sure if Earl Thomas posted on Instagram that if the Seahawks don't want to extend him, then they should trade him as news, but nonetheless, we could be getting into that later on. All right, but nonetheless, now we move over to the NBA, and Kawhi Leonard is seriously considering participating in the USA men's basketball team. Their little mini camp in Vegas coming up next week. And, I mean, if he could play, why not? But this whole Kawhi Leonard situation is so odd, man. I mean, just from the start of it to where we're at now, okay? Because, I mean, you never would have thought that anything would happen like this with the Spurs organization. They've always been tightly run, never really had any problems, all right? Gone from guys like David Robinson to Tim Duncan and now to Kawhi Leonard, but it just seems that Kawhi Leonard wasn't the chosen son that they all assumed that he was going to be, okay? Once you saw that Kawhi Leonard was going to be taking over Tim Duncan, everyone figured that, yeah, Kawhi's the next Tim Duncan, all right? Nice, humble, quiet guy who's going to lead the team going forward, and it just hasn't worked out that way, all right? At least it did maybe first season, then he fooled us all after that. All right. I mean, as good as Kawhi is, there's a point where, yeah, he is a diva. Okay. And, I mean, I'm kind of thinking maybe the Spurs have gone about this the wrong way as far as trying to trade him. Okay, because there's a point where it seems that the Spurs are trying to trade him for basically an entire team. All right. I mean, we saw that they wanted Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, Kyle Kuzma, and 2 first-round picks from the Lakers. Okay? That's absolutely an enormous package to get for Kawhi Leonard. And, I mean, the Spurs got to realize that no matter what happens, he won't be playing for them next season, whether they trade him now or keep him around for another year. Okay, and even then, I mean, let's say you keep Kawhi. Stephen A. Smith, about a couple weeks ago, brought up the point that Kawhi Leonard might just sit out the rest of the season. Okay. I'm not sure how true that report is, but nonetheless, if that's something that's coming up, then it's a possibility. All right. And if I'm the Spurs, I don't really want this to drag on longer, because I feel like if you wait to the trade deadline to trade him, you're going to get a whole lot less than what you could get for him now. Okay, because then at that point, you have teams basically trading for Kawhi Leonard for only half a season, unless it's like a Lakers or Clippers team, since it seems that, I mean, the consensus is that he wants to play in LA. All right. But nonetheless, I mean, I feel like they have to get rid of him. There isn't a point where I think they could keep him and he still ends up staying, given the point that we're at right now. All right. I feel like that should be said. I mean, I thought at first, too, before, I mean, the whole trade was requested and all that Kawhi would be a Spur still. Okay, because we all knew that he wanted to be traded and stuff before that, but it wasn't at the point where it was like coming back from the beginning. Okay. So now I guess we just wait. But like I said, I mean, I don't think it's within the Spurs' interest to wait much longer going forward. All right. Like I said, I feel like his value is about as high as it'll get right now. And like I said, once you get to the trade deadline, you still got him. I mean, how much can you really get for half of your rental? Okay. And I mean, you get teams like Boston saying that their top 5 players are off limits. Lakers are already pretty much been there, done that with the Spurs and trying to trade there. Okay, maybe you could still send him over to the Clippers. I mean, like I said recently, the Toronto Raptors were favored by Vegas to get him. And I mean, maybe that's still a possibility. There still could be working out a deal. All right. But if I'm the Raptors and I got to send over DeMar DeRozan or Kyle Lowry, the deal's kind of, I don't know if it's the right word, but redundant. Okay. Because I think you need more than Kyrie or Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard to get past the Celtics. And I think you need more. And I don't think you can really have Kawhi Leonard and maybe I'm talking about having Kawhi Leonard and DeMar DeRozan in the same starting 5. You have Fred VanVleet as the starting point guard. All right, but even then, so I don't think that beats the Celtics either. Okay. And I don't think the Spurs are really too interested in doing a deal for the Raptors role players and all that. Okay. But, I mean, we could see a deal where Kawhi just ends up on some random team. All right, I kind of point to the whole Detroit Pistons and Blake Griffin trade. I mean, no one saw that trade coming as it was, but I don't think anyone expected Blake Griffin to become a Detroit Piston or for Detroit to trade for a player like Blake Griffin. All right. Detroit was a bad team at the time, and it just seemed that there was no reason to do that. But nonetheless, they pulled it off, and they ended up with him. Okay? Maybe there could be a surprise team out there who could, like I said, be eyeing Kawhi Leonard right now, and it really wouldn't make any sense to think of them as a possible trade suitor. But nonetheless, I mean, if they have the assets to do it, then why not? I mean, Kawhi Leonard does elevate you to a potential playoff team at the bare minimum, I'd say. All right, he is that good of a player. I think we kind of forgot about Kawhi Leonard. He's kind of like the Andrew Luck of the NBA, all right? When he was out there, he was completely dominating all that. Definitely a top 5 player at his position, top 5 player in the league. And him missing a year is kind of, I think, made us forget about how good he really is. Because, I mean, I see people doing their top 5 lists and all that, and some people are just completely forgetting about Kawhi Leonard. All right, Kawhi Leonard, when healthy, is probably the 3rd best player in the league. 2nd best if you take him over KD. Okay? And even then, so maybe you could take him over Bron at this point in time. All right? But, I mean, who knows what's going to end up happening with him and the Spurs. I mean, I figured that, like I said, next season he'll be on a different team, but it's just a matter of, is he going to play the season with the Spurs, or will he be traded? All right. I guess who knows there. And, I mean, is there really a point if you're not one of the top teams in the league to trade for Kawhi Leonard? Because I feel like we're at the point where if you don't have a big 3 or anything like that, there's no point in going out and getting these guys because you know you're not going to be able to compete. All right, over in Boston, they got their solid team. You got Tatum, Hayward, Irving, Brown, Horford. Okay, Philly's got Embiid and Simmons, possibly Fultz if he turns out to be as good as we all expect him to be before he ended up getting hurt or just lost his talent, I guess. I'm not sure. That situation's still pretty weird. All right, like I said, he's still going to deal with the Warriors. Okay, the Lakers got better. The Jazz are going to be a very good team that no one, I think, is really hyping up too much. All right. And I think we tend to look over the Jazz for some reason. But nonetheless, I mean, the Rockets are still going to be a pretty decent team, I think. And that's one thing, too, I'm kind of curious about. Okay, the Rockets losing Mbah Moute, I'm not too worried about. The Rockets losing Trevor Ariza might be a bit of a problem. Okay. And I think that bringing in Carmelo Anthony, I don't think it necessarily fixes that problem. But, I mean, with Carmelo Anthony, I've had my doubts. Okay, I think he's washed up as a player, and that's not necessarily because I don't like the guy, like the player or anything like that. But I mean, like I pointed out too before. All right, Melo was drafted in 2003. There's only one player from that draft still playing at a high level, and that's LeBron. Okay, everyone else is either out the league or just pretty much coming to the end of their careers. All right, and I mean, adding Melo on the Rockets, I think one plus is that he can play in that system. Okay, Melo, go sit on the three-point line. And when we need to ISO. All right? It's not a team who really plays great defense or anything like that. So, I mean, Melo fits right in. Okay? Plus, I'm sure in Melo's head, he sees himself as a 25 to 30-minute-a-game player. And I'm sure the Rockets could give him that as they'll probably be offering him a starting job. Okay? And I mean, even then, so if you don't go with Melo, maybe you start Eric Gordon, but that does leave a hole on your bench. All right? Because, I mean, they did bring back Gerald Green, but you're going to need a whole lot more than that to compete with the Warriors. Okay. So, I mean, that's going to be interesting, too. I mean, we still got to wait and see where Melo ends up going. All right. Because it seems right now the only reason why OKC hasn't bought him out is because there's still a bunch of suitors out there for Carmelo Anthony. Whether it's teams who are just willing to eat up the salary cap or teams who actually could see him as a fit and they're willing to trade and give up assets for him. All right. And I think with NBA players, you have about, obviously you play about up until you're good, but your name, depending on how good you are, gives you about a couple more years before people start to realize, okay, he doesn't really have it anymore. And I think that's kind of what at the stage we're at with Carmelo Anthony. Okay. Melo was good, very good for a long time. Nonetheless, last couple of years he started to slow down. And I think that his name is really carrying more weight than his play. All right, people are still thinking, oh, yeah, we're getting Carmelo Anthony. We're getting a real solid addition here. In reality, I mean, it's not the same Carmelo Anthony that was with the Knicks or the Nuggets. All right, and we kind of saw that with Dwayne Wade, too. Dwayne Wade leaving the Heat, I mean, he was basically towards the end, like pretty much at the end of his career. All right, he goes to the Bulls as a starter. I mean, it didn't really work out there. His play they couldn't really play too well. All right, but nonetheless, the Bulls figured, you know what, it's Dwayne Wade. Okay, that name, like I said, does carry some weight for a couple of years at least before people start to realize, oh yeah, this dude's done. Okay, because then we see him going to Cleveland to be a role player on the bench, and even that doesn't work out, so they end up sending him back to Miami. All right, so now I'm figuring he's going to be a role player on Miami, or he's just going to retire. All right, if you're a superstar, you got about 3 extra years before, like I said, everyone knows you're done. So we'll see what ends up happening, but as far as like the biggest threat to the Warriors right now, I'd say that's probably the Celtics. Lakers need more in order to compete with those teams in the West. The Jazz are a team where if Donovan Mitchell develops into an even better player in his second year and those other players sharpen up their game a bit, they could compete with the Warriors. I'm not saying they'd go out and beat the Warriors, but nonetheless, they'd give them a run for their money. Okay, people sleep on this Jazz team, but this team's very well coached, and they got a lot of good players who play well in their role. All right. Rockets, I mean, I think their best chance to get past the Warriors was this past season. Of course, you had Chris Paul messing up his hamstring, and those 7 straight missed threes obviously killed him there. Lakers got a couple more years before they do that. Nuggets are going to be a team who's going to be up and coming. I think they'll make the playoffs after missing out this past season, but nonetheless, their defense kind of scares me. I'm not sure they're relatively going to be holding teams than 90 or 100 or less points. All right. But nonetheless, I mean, they're going to be scoring a whole bunch there. And I mean, the Nuggets are going to be real fun to watch. So that's all I got to say about the NBA. Next up, we'll be talking about a couple of other things going on in the world of sports. Probably maybe get into some MLB stuff. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We spent that first segment talking about some NFL news, saw the details of the offer of what the Steelers were going to give that's a different sport, but nonetheless, Le'Veon Bell. All right, it was a 5-year, $70 million deal. I saw $30 million of it was guaranteed. Not sure if those are the exact terms, but that's what's been getting reported. I mean, seems Le'Veon Bell wants to be paid for both what he does as a running back, but also as a receiver. All right. And, I mean, that makes sense for him, but it also makes sense for the Steelers not to pay him all that money because eventually, I mean, if you're going past $14 million, you're probably going to be getting into quarterback yearly type salary money. Okay. And you just simply can't be giving a running back that. I have no problem with Le'Veon Bell asking for it. I have no problem with the Steelers not giving it to him. Okay. Yesterday, I thought it was a point of the Steelers just wanting to pay him about $10, $12 million a year. And Le'Veon asking for about 14, 15, but it seems that what Le'Veon wants is something that, I mean, no other running back has really ever gotten. Okay? So, yeah, I don't blame the Steelers there. We also talked about Brandon Cooks getting his 5-year extension with the Rams. I mean, Aaron Donald's got to be looking at it like, okay, what's going on here? All right, because it seems everyone else on the Rams getting taken care of besides Aaron Donald. And, I mean, I think we can all come to an agreement that Aaron Donald is probably the best football player on that team. Okay? Aaron Donald's still on a rookie deal, and he's already the best defensive tackle of football. All right? You don't really do that as a player still on your rookie contract. All right? But nonetheless, I mean, you figure that the Rams are still going to be getting a deal done with him. It's just a matter of maybe when. But like I said, this probably does raise some eyebrows for him, and it does raise some eyebrows as far as everyone watching because, I mean, you do need to take care of Aaron Donald. But there's also the point that the dude's asking for quarterback money there. I mean, do you want to give that to him if you're the Rams? Okay? Seeing that, I mean, you saw Miami with Ndamukong Suh. That didn't really work out. Now Suh's on your team. I mean, why would you give a player that much money? All right. So it's going to be real interesting to see if they can get a deal done there. Okay. And we mentioned Terrell Owens trying to make a comeback. I saw NFL pop up. He's not coming to the NFL. There's absolutely no way. Okay. But Canadian Football League, that is a possibility. Terrell Owens is still in shape and can still run routes and still pretty quick, which we've seen that he still is, given that he's run a 4.440 recently. Why not give him a shot? All right, and I'm not sure how, if this is going to end up happening because I'm not sure how much CFL is what the Edmonton Eskimos are willing to offer Terrell Owens. But nonetheless, I mean, it'd be interesting, and I'd definitely watch if he ended up going over there. Okay? Give me a game where we got Johnny Manziel as a starting quarterback, and on the opposite side of on the opposition, you got Terrell Owens starting at wide receiver. I mean, you tell me no one's going to watch that? That's a lie. Okay? So, I mean, we talked about that. Second segment, we talked a lot about Kawhi Leonard. All right? Going to be is considering heading over to the USA men's basketball team minicamp next week in Vegas. All right? We haven't seen Kawhi Leonard play since, I think it was, January when he played those 9 games? All right, been dealing with a quad injury all season, I guess, and now wants to be traded. Still, I guess, no extra news on the Kawhi trade front. I'm sure that the Raptors are still in the driver's seat to get him, at least according to Vegas. All right, but nonetheless, do not sleep on the possibility of a random team, I'd say, coming out and trading for Kawhi Leonard, kind of like a Blake Griffin and Detroit Pistons type of scenario. All right. We talked a bit about Carmelo Anthony too, whether he's going to possibly end up. I think it's still going to be the Rockets, but like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe somehow the Charlotte Hornets came in, swooped in, offered him a bunch of money, and told him they want him to lead them to the playoffs and be their starting small forward, him and Kemba going forward. Plus, you have Tony Parker as the backup point guard. Would that team make the playoffs? Probably, maybe as the 8th seed in the West at most, but nonetheless, they get swept by Philly or Boston easily, I'd say. All right. So that's what we talked about so far. Now let's move over to the MLB. We'll get into Earl Thomas asking for a trade or an extension on Instagram in the 4th segment, along with other stuff. But nonetheless, I mean, it was reported today. I think John Heyman reported it, and Buster Olney reported it, that there was a deal in place for the Orioles to trade Manny Machado away. Okay? The only problem there is that there was no team reported as to who would be trading for Manny Machado or who is the team that is extremely close to a deal for Machado. All right. And obviously Manny Machado is the how do you say it, is probably the biggest trade piece that's going to be moving at this point, but nonetheless, I mean, I've seen that it's the Dodgers. I saw John Heyman. I think he said that he had talked to Manny Machado, and Machado says that he thinks that the report of it being the Dodgers are true. But nonetheless, I mean, I'd be a solid fit for Manny Machado if he were to go to the Dodgers. Okay, I've also seen the Phillies as a team who's in it, and then I mean, we've been seeing that the Yankees also were a team who was a constant name as far as the Machado trade talks. I mean, if the Yankees were to get him, that puts him right back up there with Boston. Okay? But I do think that it isn't going to end up being the Dodgers, and I think that wins him the NL West. And I think maybe that could get him back to the World Series. All right, Dodgers started off the season extremely poor, weren't really winning too many games, and were struggling a lot. Since then, have really picked it up, and I mean, adding Manny Machado just only makes you a whole lot better. All right, Machado, I think, is on pace to have probably the best season of his career so far. All right, I mean, the best season as far as his batting average was back in 2016. He hit 294. As of right now, he's hitting 315. Okay, he's already, I'd say, on pace to be walked more than he ever has in any part of his career. All right, right now he's got 45 walks. Last year he had 50. The year before that he had 48. 2015 is where he was walked 70 times. Let's see, right now he's got 65 RBIs. I think that's on pace to be the most. He's on pace to have the most RBIs ever so far in his career. The most home runs he's ever hit was back in 2016 with 37. He's already at, let's see, 24 right now. And as far as doubles, he hit 51 in 2003. That's his most ever. Right now he's at 21, so I don't see him hitting 51 doubles this season. But nonetheless, like I said, right now he's having probably the best season so far of his career. Okay, he's going to be a free agent after this season, so whoever is trading for him is risking a lot, given the fact that I'm sure you're going to have to give up a lot of prospects to the Orioles. But nonetheless, I mean, he goes to LA, and let's say they make it to the World Series. I mean, you could probably sell to Machado. You come be the face of LA. Okay, and we'll come and we'll probably win a World Series with you here. All right. But even then, so, I mean, New York comes calling or whatever, you're going to have to pay attention. And same with Boston because, I mean, those dollar signs are big over there. All right. So we'll see, but it seems like he possibly could be getting traded today or at least within the next few days. All right. With reports of there being a deal in place, it's just a matter of who exactly is the deal in place with. And like I said, I've been seeing the Dodgers a lot. It's just a matter of it needs to be confirmed before I actually believe it. All right. So we'll see you there, but nonetheless, I mean, yesterday we had the Home Run Derby, and I'd say the Home Run Derby delivered again. Okay, like I say, I'm not able to watch every single MLB game because of the fact that that's just absolutely way too many to watch. All right, you miss half the season, you watch 81 games, but nonetheless, I mean, Home Run Derby was exciting and it was fun to watch. All right, Bryce Harper ended up winning it, ended up beating Kyle Schwarber in the final. And Kyle Schwarber, I mean, it seemed like in that final round, he was going to get it done, all right? It seemed like 18 home runs was what was going to be good enough to get you a win in each round against your opponent. But nonetheless, I mean, Bryce Harper, every single round where he was up, started off slow and then just had like this minute section of whatever part of a session where the dude is just hitting home run after home run after home run after home run. Like, the dude was absolutely on it. And I'd say that this was maybe one of the more exciting home run derbies in a while. All right? Because, I mean, even the one where we had Alex Bregman, he ended up losing in the first round, but nonetheless, he came so close to coming back and forcing a little sudden death with his opponent. Okay? Let me go through each bracket win. So Hoskins won his first one. Bregman lost to Schwarber in his first round. All right, and then you had Harper beating Freeman, and then Muncy beating Baez. And Muncy was actually tearing the cover off the ball in the home run derby yesterday. Then, like I said, you had Harper beating Muncy, and then Schwarber beating Hoskins, and that's when the final. I mean, you had Harper. It seemed like Schwarber was going to win. All right, it seemed like Harper was like too little, too late for him. But I don't know exactly what happened with him. I mean, he just went on an absolute tear for about a minute. Ended up finishing the round tied, but nonetheless had the extra bonus 30 seconds because he hit two. I think it was 440-foot home runs. All right, in his round. So I mean, like I said, home run derby was fun to watch yesterday. Not sure if the All-Star game is going to be getting played today. I think as of right now over in Washington, it's currently raining a lot. It's been showering all day. I mean, the game doesn't start as of right now for another 3 hours as I'm recording this. So, I mean, there's still a possibility if the rain lets up. But even then, so, I mean, it's going to be sloppy field conditions. So, you got to figure that's not going to be the greatest thing ever. All right. But, I mean, like I said, the MLB always tends to do well with their home run derby. And I like the format where they got it all timed instead of the 10 outs. I think it's a whole lot more excitement. And, I mean, like I said, when it's coming down to the wire, you're going to have the fans going crazy. And those fans over in Washington were going crazy. Even for guys like Schwarber and when Bregman was trying to come back against Schwarber. All right? It just adds, like I said, another piece of excitement to the home run derby. So, I mean, nothing to change up there. But, nonetheless, that's all I got to say. I mean, second half of the season is going to be real exciting. I mean, if Machado ends up over with the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Yankees, doesn't matter. I mean, wherever he goes, that's going to add to their World Series chances. I mean, a little update, of course, we got the Red Sox in first in the AL East, Indians in first in the AL Central, the Astros in first in the AL West, Yankees and Mariners as the two wildcard teams, and then over in the NL, Phillies lead the NL East, Cubs the NL Central, Dodgers the NL West, and then we got the Brewers and Braves at the first two wildcard spots. So we'll see how the rest of the season plays out, but nonetheless, I mean, it should be fun. So we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports, so stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We spent these first three segments talking about Le'Veon Bell, mentioned Terrell Owens, talked a bit about Brandon Cooks. All right, second segment, we talked about a lot about Kawhi Leonard. All right, talked about the Rockets possibly and the idea of them getting Carmelo Anthony. Third segment, we talked Manny Machado and the Home Run Derby. And now this segment, as we always do, talk about anything else going on in the world of sports. All right. So Earl Thomas has been pretty much, he's the next moving piece in the NFL. You're waiting to see if the Seahawks are going to be extending him, or you're going to waiting to see if the Seahawks are trading him. All right, we're all kind of just waiting to see, all just hoping it happens soon, and I think Earl Thomas is hoping it happens soon too. All right, he posted a picture of him working out on Instagram and left the caption of, "Always been the underdog, ain't nothing new. Extend, ... If you don't want me, let's make a trade happen. I understand it's a biz." Okay, emoji, 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 emoji. All right. So obviously Earl Thomas is tired of the whole waiting game, and he just wants to figure out what's going on with his future, and I don't blame the guy. Okay? If the Seahawks aren't going to extend him, trade him. Okay, and it doesn't seem like Earl Thomas is going to be showing his face anytime soon until one of those two things happens. Obviously, he's open to being extended there, according to his Instagram caption. It isn't a point where he just wants to leave. Okay? Seems he has no problem playing long-term in Seattle. He just wants that long-term deal. Okay? Earl Thomas is currently 29. All right? And, I mean, this is probably going to be his last big contract. Plus, he's still one of the best safeties in the game. Of course, he's going to want his future secured. All right? And he's going to want to be compensated as one of the best safeties in the game. No problem with it whatsoever. Okay? So if I'm Seattle, I mean, get the deal done. I mean, why wouldn't you bring back Earl Thomas? What is the holdup? Okay? People will point to injuries. I think he's only missed let me see how many games he's missed over his NFL career. Okay, because I think there's been the notion of Earl Thomas being injury prone, and even I was under that little idea. But nonetheless, I think that's a bit overblown. Okay, because I mean Earl Thomas hasn't really missed as much as we've all thought. So let me pull up his stats real quick and see how many games. I think he only missed 2 games this past season. All right, so let me see. I got it right here. Let's see, 2016, he did only play 11 games. 2017, he played 14. Other than that, from 2010 to 2015, he started and played in all 16 games. Okay. So, yeah, 2016 was a year where he was injured a lot. Well, only missed 5 games, but nonetheless, 5 games is a decent chunk out of the season. Last year, he only missed 2 games. Okay. Nonetheless, still made the Pro Bowl. The only year he didn't make the Pro Bowl was his rookie year and his 2016 season where he only played 11 games. All right. So this whole Earl Thomas is injury prone. I mean, last 2 years, yeah, last year he missed 2 games. The year before that, he's missed 5. So he's missed 7 games in the last 2 seasons. But nonetheless, I don't think that really makes him injury prone. All right. I mean, how many players do you know that have spent their entire careers playing and starting all 16 games every season? All right. It doesn't really work out that way. Okay. The dude's a Pro Bowl safety. He's still relatively young, still in his prime. Extend him. And if not, I mean, I've been seeing a lot of people saying it's either going to be he gets extended by the Seahawks or he gets traded to the Cowboys. Okay, I do think that the Cowboys would be a decent spot for him, but I don't know why everyone assumes that he'd go to the Cowboys just because he wants to go to the Cowboys. Okay? The Seahawks don't have to trade him there. They trade him wherever they're going to get the best return for him. All right? If that's the Cowboys, then sure, yeah, go ahead, send him over there, but nonetheless, I mean, it's not a given that he's going to end up there. Okay? And even then, so, I mean, with the Seahawks knowing that if he were to be traded, he'd like to be in Dallas, that kind of gives the Seattle leverage instead of Dallas. Okay? Because, like I said, I mean, if you're Seattle, why are you just going to give him away over there? All right? Why not just trade him over to some different team where you could probably... And that's the thing, too. How much do you think you can get for an Earl Thomas? All right. Do you think he's worth a first-round pick right now? I'd say no because he's 29. Second-round pick, possibly. I think he's more of like a 4 or a 3rd and a 7th type of player. Okay. Well, Kelvin Benjamin, actually, he got traded to Buffalo, and Buffalo gave up a 3rd and a 7th for him. Maybe Thomas is worth like a 2nd and a 6th, maybe a 2nd and a 5th. All right. But even then, I mean, that's very high value for a guy at 29. All right. Like I said, I mean, if you are trading for him, you are getting one of the best safeties in the league. Okay? So, I mean, I guess it's a matter of what you're willing to get up to upgrade your safety position. Okay? And Earl Thomas is a difference maker on that defense. All right? He is a leader. Every team needs a guy like Earl Thomas. So, it's kind of like a deal where if you feel like your team's set up nicely enough to the point where you can give up a 2nd and a 5th or 2nd and a 6th possibly, or maybe even a 3rd, then you do it. If not, you stand pat. All right, so we'll see what ends up happening with Earl Thomas. I mean, training camp's coming up, so we're going to be seeing these guys like Dez Bryant and all that getting picked up, traded away, and all. So we'll see exactly what ends up happening. All right, but I mean, the Seahawks are going over an extreme makeover here. All right, Legion of Boom is no more. And that defense isn't really as scary as it used to be. Okay? Not at all. And, I mean, Seattle, always took pride upon itself being one of the toughest places to play and also having a great defense. But now it's just at the point where, can Russell Wilson take this team to the playoffs? Can he save this team? All right, it's going to take him and Pete Carroll to do it, but nonetheless, I mean, they are top 5 of what they do. All right, if Russell Wilson gets this team to the playoffs, give him the MVP. I could care less what his stats are looking like. All right, they have to be good enough to the point where, yeah, he should win MVP if they're going to the playoffs. All right, I mean, you got Arizona, who has gotten better, and they were 8-8 last season. San Francisco's gotten better, and the Rams, I mean, are looking like the best team on paper in the NFC. This could be a year where the Seahawks just end up finishing last in their division. All right, I mean, a team only a few years removed from a Super Bowl win and Super Bowl appearance is now seemingly at a point where if they don't get this rebuild right, then, I mean, everything's completely botched. All right. The only upside to everything is the fact that they got 2 of the most important needs filled up, and that's quarterback and head coach. I mean, after that, you could pretty much start to fill guys in. And, I mean, with the Seahawks, too, we've seen that Pete Carroll's a guy who drafts well and develops talent. Okay? It's not like all these guys that he drafted have all been first-round picks. All right? I think Richard Sherman was a 5th-round pick. Russell Wilson was a 3rd-round pick. I don't think Doug Baldwin was picked in the first 2 rounds. Okay, Cam Chancellor was picked late. I think Earl Thomas, I can't remember if he was a 1st-round pick. Actually, let me see if I can find out if he was. But nonetheless, I mean, even then so, I mean, you still got to develop the talent. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, he was drafted in the 1st round. He's 4th team overall. So Earl Thomas doesn't help my case, but nonetheless, we've seen that Pete Carroll can develop talent. Maybe that's one of those seasons this year where we see a lot of the guys he drafted pretty much good from the get-go because he knows what he's doing. Okay, so it'll be interesting, but nonetheless, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening with the Seahawks. Like I said, all those other teams in the division are going to be pretty solid. All right, but nonetheless, I mean, anything else going on? We got the final Summer League, Las Vegas Summer League game going on tonight. Lakers versus Portland. All right, I'm just ready for the NBA season to get here. I mean, we got the Warriors. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be getting DeMarcus Cousins till halfway through the season. But nonetheless, they're going to be a fun team to watch. Same with the Celtics. Now we're finally going to see what Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward look like on that team. Okay. Philly and with Simmons and Embiid developing for another year. We're going to see what Fultz does. I wonder if he's going to be the starting point guard for that team. All right. LeBron in LA, I mean, there's all kinds of storylines to look for, so it's going to be fun. But nonetheless, I don't think there's really anything else going on in the world of sports. So we're going to wrap it up here. Today, we talked about a variety of different NFL topics. Okay. Talked about Kawhi Leonard, talked about Manny Machado, and then talked about Earl Thomas. So thanks for listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. I will be back tomorrow, so stay tuned, and I will talk to you guys later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.